Okay, so imagine this. The most terrifying creature around is, well, maybe more just loud than actually scary.
Right. Or maybe the best way to train a knight involves a wizard making sarcastic comments.
Exactly. Welcome, everyone, to the deep dive. We take fascinating sources and, break them down for you.
Get you the key insights.
Today, we're getting into T.H. White's The Once and Future King.
Yeah, and maybe forget those shiny romantic pictures of Camelot for a minute,
Uh-huh.
because the bits we've got here, they dig into the sometimes surprisingly ordinary side of being a knight.
Like the day-to-day stuff.
Exactly. The training, the discipline, but also how weirdly funny their quests and fights could be.
Okay.
So we're going to look at knightly education, some really odd adventures, how they hunted, and how ideas about power and justice were changing in Arthur's world.
Right.
The mission here is to give you, the listener, let's say a real feel for this world as White wrote it, looking past the legends.
Finding the sort of human truths underneath. Okay, let's get into it. How did someone become a knight back then? It wasn't just waking up heroic, I guess.
No, not at all. There was definitely a system. Our sources are pretty clear. They say tilting and horsemanship had 2 afternoons a week set aside just for them.
2 afternoons, that tells you something.
It really does. Shows you what skills they thought were absolutely core. Riding a horse, handling a lance, fundamental stuff.
But not everyone agreed that was the most important thing, right? Merlin had thoughts.
Oh, he definitely did. He grumbled about athletics, saying something like, people think you're educated if you can just knock someone off a horse.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? It feels like maybe White's poking fun at a society that's maybe a bit too focused on the physical side, maybe not enough on the thinking.
And Sir Ector saw it completely differently.
Completely. He believed the Battle of Crecy had been won upon the playing fields of Camelot.
Yeah.
That classic idea. A totally different view on what makes you strong, what wins battles.
And Merlin, well, being Merlin, he didn't just leave it at arguing, did he?
No way. Had to throw in some magic, of course, giving Sir Ector rheumatism.
For 2 nights.
Yeah, 2 nights running before he relented.
Yeah.
It's funny, but it also shows that tension, and Merlin's unique approach to making a point.
So when they were doing their tilting practice, it wasn't just random bashing, right? There was technique involved.
Oh, definitely. The excerpts lay it out. They held their lances in their right hands, aimed their horses so the opponent was on their left, their near side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was sort of a shield-to-shield charge, give some protection. And they even talk about different ways to hit, like a side swipe versus the point stroke.
Point stroke.
Yeah, the really good knights like Lancelot and Tristram. They apparently used the point because it made contact sooner, more skillful, I guess, more efficient.
It sounds like Merlin wasn't too impressed with the general skill level, though, especially Kay's practice.
Oh, Merlin definitely ran out of patience there. He made some crack about a lot of brainless unicorns swaggering about.
Brainless unicorns.
Yeah, calling themselves educated just because they can shove each other off a horse with a stick. And he called the Norman aristocracy games mad. You can really hear his contempt for what he saw as just surface level stuff.
And making the sergeant's ears flap.
Classic Merlin, just adding a bit of magical exclamation to his frustration.
Which is so different from the advice young Arthur got. That seemed much more practical.
Totally. The sergeant telling him exactly how to hold the spear between the thumb and forefinger of the right hand with the shield in line with the seam of the trouser ledges.
Ah, a trouser ledges.
Yeah, it really brings it down to earth, doesn't it? A reminder that under all the romance, there were just very specific practical things a knight had to learn.
Okay, so let's move away from the training yarn. What about knights actually doing things? Like King Pellinore and his questing beast situation. That sounds less grand, more tiring.
That's a perfect way to describe it. Yeah. Pellinore's quest, it's shown as just this constant grind.
Really?
Yeah, listen to him talking to the wart. It's all about the hassles. First, you have to stop to unwind the brachet, like a tracking dog.
Right.
Then your visor falls down, then you can't see through your spectacles, and complaining about having nowhere to sleep, bad weather, the armor taking ages.
It really takes the shine off the whole epic quest idea.
Completely. It makes it seem like, well, just a really uncomfortable job.
So what keeps him going? Is it just pure dedication? Noble cause?
It feels more like duty, maybe obsession. But what really comes through is his longing for simple comfort. He says, how I do wish I had a nice house of my own. A house with beds in it and real pillows. And when he hears about the feather bed with down pillows at Sir Ector's, he gets so excited, almost like a kid. Makes him feel very Very human, just wanting a good night's sleep.
And speaking of human, that fight between him and Sir Grumore sounds less than heroic, more like slapstick.
Exactly. It's brilliantly absurd. They're just whacking each other on the head, apparently cheating, both thinking the other guy's attacking from behind.
Oh, dear.
It really paints this picture of chivalry that's not exactly dignified. You get the sense Wade's kind of gently mocking the whole ritual of it sometimes.
But things do look up for Pellinor eventually, right?
Right.
And his weird quest sort of helps.
Yeah, it's a lovely little turn later on. We find it with Piggy, that's the Queen of Flanders' daughter, and he's just overjoyed because she didn't laugh at his quest.
That's sweet, after all his complaining.
Right. And then there's this hint that the questing beast itself somehow led her to him. And a magic barge gets involved. It adds this touch of like whimsical fate to his otherwise pretty miserable story.
Suggests even the strangest paths can lead somewhere good.
Maybe, yeah. Even if it involves a noisy mythical creature.
Okay, let's switch things up again. Hunting. There's a description of a Boxing Day meet at Sir Ector's. Sounds like a big deal.
Oh, it was a whole community thing. You had Sir Ector's mixed pack of hounds, and it lists different types. Alance, gazehounds, lemurs, brooches. So specialized dogs for different jobs.
Right.
But you also had villagers there with whatever weapons they had. Even courting young women with baskets of provisions. It really paints a picture of everyone turning out.
And then Robin Hood just pops up.
Yeah. Out of nowhere, really. Brings that folklore element right in. And there's that archery contest, the Popinjay shooting challenge with him, Kay, and the Wart.
And the Wart does surprisingly well, doesn't he?
He does. Kind of hints at his hidden abilities, sets him apart a bit. It's a nice little moment.
The boar hunt described sounds much more intense, though. Dangerous.
Definitely. You can feel the tension build.
Yeah.
The silent limbers, the thunderous heartbeats. And when the boar suddenly appears and attacks Sir Grumore, it makes the danger feel very real.
Yeah.
And the way the Wart notices all the details after the boar is gone. The rank mane of bristles, one flash of a sour tush, the staring ribs, the red flame from a piggy eye. It's incredibly vivid. Makes it almost like visceral.
It feels like Sir Ector's worries about hunting, say, unicorns didn't quite match the gritty reality of facing a wild boar.
Exactly. His concerns about royal hounds running riot after a unicorn or something, chasing mythical things and causing trouble. It's such a contrast to the actual bloody danger of the boar hunt.
And him worrying about Master Twitty accidentally killing the questing beast.
Yeah, it just highlights that gap between the sort of theory or the ideal and the messy, practical reality of their lives.
Okay, now there's a really big theme running through all this, isn't there? This idea of might versus right. Merlin's really pushing this with the Wart.
Yes, absolutely crucial. This is maybe the core lesson. Merlin's comments about Norman warfare and Victorian fox hunting are really pointed. Well, he basically says that for the nobles, battles were often like a game, fought without much real risk to themselves. But it was the common soldier who actually suffered.
That's pretty strong social commentary.
It really is, especially tucked into what looks like a fantasy story.
Mm.
He's making a point about who pays the price for conflicts that are just about spite or sport, as he puts it.
And using examples from different times makes it feel timeless.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It suggests this is just a recurring problem throughout history, power being used without thinking about the ethics, about the impact on ordinary people.
And Arthur, the Wart, he does seem to get it eventually.
He does. That moment where Arthur realizes might isn't right and decides he wants to do something about it when he becomes king. That's huge. It sets up his whole vision for the Round Table for a better kingdom.
But the book also shows power being misused in, well, much smaller, nastier ways too, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. That bit with the children hurting the donkeys. It's really quite disturbing.
It is.
And it shows that abusing power isn't just for kings and knights. It's maybe something more fundamental, something that can pop up anywhere if it's not checked. That struggle to use power right is constant.
And the whole idea of justice gets complicated too, especially later on with Lancelot. People react very differently.
Exactly. You have Gawain burning for revenge, this real thirst for vengeance, while others are more willing to forgive. It shows that even in a world with a column like chivalry, justice isn't simple. It's subjective. People disagree fiercely about what's right.
So all these examples seem to build this picture of, well, a big contrast. The shiny idea of chivalry versus the often messy, sometimes brutal, sometimes just plain silly reality.
That's a great way to put it. Think about that unicorn hunt with Gawain and his brothers. It's not noble, it's messy, driven by this weird need to please their mother, Morgoth.
Right, and they end up hating the unicorn.
Yeah, their guilt and hatred of the spoiled animal. It just reveals the uglier side of these knightly quests, how personal motives can twist things.
And it's not just quests, is it? Even the ideal of courtly love seems complicated.
Definitely. Even early on, you feel the tension in the relationships between Arthur, Guinevere, and Lancelot. It hints at the betrayals and conflicts to come. And Morgoth lurking around with her manipulative nature and dark magic, it really undermines any simple romantic view of court life. Makes it feel dangerous.
But despite all these problems, these contradictions, the sources do suggest Arthur tried to make things better.
Oh, absolutely. Later parts of the story definitely show his efforts to build a more just and peaceful England. Things apparently did improve for a while, less violence, new hospitals, arts and learning starting to flourish.
So progress was made.
Yes, but there's always that shadow hanging over it. The threat of Mordred, his parentage. It's like a constant reminder that even the best intentions, the noblest projects, can still end tragically.
Okay, so pulling all these threads together, what are the main things we're taking away from this deep dive into the Once and Future King?
Well, I think we see chivalry wasn't just one thing. It was tough training, sometimes ridiculous duties, and this constant, difficult struggle to use power well to make might serve right.
And the characters feel very real.
Very. Especially someone like Pellinor. He reminds you these legendary figures were also just people with everyday worries. And looking at things like hunting, we see that clash between the ideal and the often messy reality.
And that core question of might versus right just keeps coming up.
It really does. It's central.
It feels like these issues from, a fictional past still resonate quite a bit today.
I think so too. The attraction of power, the risk of misusing it, how hard it is to make truly ethical choices, the way our ideals often don't quite match up with how people actually behave.
Mhm.
These feel like things we still grapple with, right?
Definitely. So just to wrap up our deep dive into these parts of the Once and Future King, we've seen the nitty-gritty of Night School, met some wonderfully flawed characters like Pellinor, looked at fighting and hunting from different angles, and really dug into that central tension between having power and using it justly.
Right. And maybe a question to leave you all with. Thinking about this world White shows us, how well do you think those ideals of chivalry actually stand up against basic human ambition? The drive for power? Are the kinds of struggles Arthur faced just timeless?
It's definitely something to chew on. And look, if this chat has made you curious, we really do recommend reading the whole of The Once and Future King. It's funny, it's sad, it's complex. You'll get the full picture of Arthur's story.
Yeah, it's a fantastic book, and we hope this deep dive has given you a useful, maybe quicker way into understanding some of the really interesting ideas in this classic work.